Good morning. How's everyone doing this Tuesday, May 26th? We are back with another episode of Get Up and Job Search with Martin McGovern and Career Therapy. And we are live on Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Instagram Live, the whole setup with the phone on the Gorilla Pod ended up being a bit too cumbersome. So we'll be sharing clips on Instagram after the fact. We've got lots of great clips being shared on YouTube every single day. So keep an eye out for that there. And some other really cool stuff coming to Instagram as well, including some little comic strips that I've been working on with an artist. And so I'm very excited about those as well. But how are you doing this morning? Where are you joining from? Which platform are you on? And how is your Tuesday starting out? It is gorgeous out in Chicago. Yesterday was an incredible day. So cheers to you for waking up bright and early on a Tuesday morning, getting your job search started on the right foot. Today we are talking about finding joy in the job search, a seemingly very difficult task, especially considering the fact that the job search can be kind of riddled with rejection and mundane and monotonous tasks and all that jazz, right? But we can make it more fun. We can make it more enjoyable. And so we're going to talk through today how to do that, how to bring a little bit more joy and fun and excitement and calm into your job search. And we'll start off here with the Daily Stoic, as we often do, to bring some philosophy into our more grounded career talks. May 25th, where to find joy. Joy for human beings lies in proper human work. And proper human work consists in acts of kindness to other human beings, disdain for the stirrings of the senses, identifying trustworthy impressions, and contemplating the natural order and all that happens in keeping with it. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. When dog trainers are brought in to work with a dysfunctional or unhappy dog, they usually start with one question: do you take it for walks? They ask because dogs were bred to do certain tasks, to do work, and when deprived of this essential part of their nature, they suffer and act out. This is true no matter how spoiled and nice their life might be. The same is true for humans. When you hear the Stoics brush aside certain emotions or material luxuries, it's not because they don't enjoy them. It's because the Stoic life is one bereft. It's not because the Stoic life is one bereft of happiness or fun. The Stoics simply mean to help us find our essence, to experience joy, the joy of our proper human work. This is an incredibly good reading, especially as we're trying to sort of narrow our focus and keep ourselves tied to the essentials that make us happy, right? A lot of times we're constantly chasing other things. We're chasing the next job title, the next raise, the next pay bump, the next car, the next house, the next upgrade, whatever it might be. We're in this constant chase. And we get those things and they almost never meet our expectations, right? We talk about that a lot with the job search, about how, you're racing towards this end point, this end goal of getting a job. And oftentimes people will get there. They'll get to the end and they'll be like, wait, but now I have to do this job. Now I have to deal with these new people. Now I have to deal with this commute. And maybe a week or 2 weeks or a month or two in, you're in the new grind of the day-to-day work that you're doing. And so we really need to start thinking a little bit bigger about the different types of joy that we can find in the mundane parts of life, right? How do we find ways to stay engaged and excited even when we're just kind of doing our routine, right? How do you find joy in the routine is really what we're getting at. And I was reading the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and he talked about it's an amazing book about someone who was in the Auschwitz camp during World War II, and what he did to keep himself kind of sane and grounded throughout his experience, and how he thought about things. Basically, always taking this mindset of, what can I learn from this, or what is this trying to teach me? And I think, obviously very different situations, but I mean, there's a reason it's a bestseller, because the concepts in it are applicable in so many areas of life. And one of the things that he talked about in this book that was really fascinating is how even when they were at their lowest points, they would still try and find moments of beauty and art and humor in it. He talked about them having these cabarets almost, where people would write poems and tell jokes. He talked about someone running in whose shoes had, couldn't even fit into his shoes because his feet were so swollen, and saying the sunset looks so beautiful right now. And so they expanded their idea of art. They searched for those connections, the humor where they could. And he would have conversations with his wife. He would, in his head, he would try and hold on to that love. And those things, I think, those sort of core essential human needs is really what we're trying to get down to so much in our day-to-day life. But we get so distracted by the social media stuff and the rejection of the job search and all these other things that take up our brain space and take us away from being able to just sort of sit with a very simple task, or sit with a very simple process. And, I'm talking to myself in this as well, because as I'm looking at the different things that I'm working on, as I'm looking at how I'm building this business, right? I want to infuse those aspects of humanity that exist even in the toughest situations. When everything else is stripped away, these things are still essential, right? And keep bringing those things into the work, into my life, because that's what's going to keep me engaged long term. And I think that those are the things we also need to bring into the job search. So yesterday, after reading this passage in the book, I wrote down a few Post-it notes, and I put them up on my bookshelf to sort of remind myself of these kind of core things that I want to infuse into my work, so that my work doesn't become a prison cell that I live in. It actually becomes an outlet for my creativity and my interests. And I know that's something that a lot of you are looking to do. So the 4 things that I put down are art, humor, love, and understanding. And for me, the understanding piece is right now the primary piece. It's investigating life, investigating new ideas, trying to understand different perspectives, and trying to see how the world works and how this business works in the world. And so in the job search, the understanding piece could very much be understanding, what it is, like the real details, the nitty gritty of what it is that you're doing, trying to understand the people that you're trying to help, trying to understand all the different aspects of the industry, the work, the companies, and so on. And there's a big difference between just trying to get a job and trying to understand an industry, right? If you're just trying to get a job, you really could care less about the industry, which is what I hear from people all the time. But if you're trying to understand an industry, you'll find jobs that aren't even listed on the job boards. When it comes to the idea of love, obviously we know what that is in our personal life. But what is that in the job, in like the job search, in your career? Well, I think that it's very much having an empathy mindset for all the people you come into contact with. So when you're applying for that role and they're not getting back to you within 24 hours, or they said we'll respond by Friday and they don't, that's when we want to start saying, okay, wait, where is the love missing? Where is the empathy missing in what I'm trying to accomplish with this job search, with my career, with whatever it is that I'm trying to do, right? If we sit there and we just say, no one's hiring me, everyone's a jerk, HR sucks, and we just go down this negativity slide, it's going to be a really rough go for the next 3-6 months to a year. But if we bring in some of that essential human wisdom of love, that essential human need for love and understanding, and bring those two things together, we can really start to say, wait a second, I understand this industry. I have empathy for the people within it. And maybe some of my skills can help them out. Let's figure out what skills, let's figure out what problems, let's offer up those solutions. And then the other two aspects are art and humor. And those can come out in a variety of different ways, right? How do you find the fun, which is what we're talking about today, the humor in your work? One of the things I'm trying to do is I'm working with a cartoonist to turn some of these ideas into little comic strips. And we've created this little chameleon character, and he's going to be debuting on Instagram soon. And so we created this comic strip. We've been going back and forth, and we got to a point where we were like, wait a second, we can make this even more fun. It was just a character and some basic text, but then we turned the text into a poem. And now it's a poem and a comic strip, and it talks about the job search. And I'm very excited to share that with everyone. Bringing some of that art into it, bringing some of that humor into it, trying to find humor with other people, trying to find that connection with other people. And so as we're looking at our career, broadly, and then looking at our job search specifically, one thing that I'm trying to focus on is that art, humor, love, and understanding. Sorry. Need a little water this morning. Art, humor, love, and understanding side of things. Because I think at the end of the day, when things are really tough and we're struggling and we can't seem to just make the next step and do the next thing and get the next task done, it's because we're not feeding those basic needs in our lives, right? Like what the reading says here. When dog trainers are brought into work with a dysfunctional or unhappy dog, they usually start with one question. Do you take it for walks? When people come to me and they hate their job and they hate the job search process and they can't stand it, I can ask them literally the same question. When is the last time you went outside? When is the last time you talked to a real person rather than just interfacing with the job boards? When is the last time that you actually did a task you wanted to do rather than just mindlessly doing online applications, right? When is the last time you put something of interest, of genuine interest into your job search versus angrily getting job applications out, which honestly is how most people do it. And we can break this down. What is proper human work as defined by Marcus Aurelius? He says that proper human work is 1, acts of kindness to other human beings. 2, a disdain for the stirrings of the senses. 3, identifying trustworthy impressions. And 4, contemplating the natural order and all that happens in keeping with it. So in my mind, how I broke down those 4 things, which is actually kind of scary that I broke it down into 4 things and it's broken down into 4 things, but I don't think it is a perfect one-to-one lineup, but let's see. Contemplating the natural order and all that happens in keeping with it, in my mind, is understanding. Acts of kindness to other human beings, in my mind, is love. Disdain for the stirrings of the senses, and identifying trustworthy impressions. So I don't know if those very well line up with art and humor, but I do think that all of these pieces need to come together. And you can take the philosophy that works for you, right, and adapt it to yourself to figure out what works best. And honestly, if you can switch your mindset from one of, I need someone to give me a job, to I need to find people to help with these skills, it will absolutely transform your job search. So how can we get practical about this? How can we find some really key practical things to do in order to actually put this into practice? Well, I'm going to pull up an article here from LinkedIn. We can take a look at this together and analyze some of the takeaways. Where to Find Joy in Your Job Search by Andrew Seaman. Andrew has a newsletter called Get Hired on LinkedIn. That's really good. Job searching takes a toll on a person's mental health. In addition to the work and complexities of job searching, you're tasked with maintaining other aspects of your life, and if you're like most job seekers, you need to deal with rejection. We discussed mental health for job seekers in a previous edition of Get Hired with David Bluestein, the author of The Importance of Work in an Age of Uncertainty. I want to revisit the topic, though. Many of you are entering a very intense stretch of job seeking now that the new year is behind you, and a busy holiday season isn't for a couple of months. This time around, I asked you in a post about your techniques and tips for staying positive while looking for work. Many of you volunteered your thoughts and experiences. First tip, remember that you will find a job. Stay patient throughout the search, as these things generally take time. They shouldn't, but they do. Always believe in yourself and your ability, and that the next call will be the one that you wanted. Stay patient throughout the job search, as these things generally take time. They shouldn't, but they do. See, I'm even I'll push against that, because saying they shouldn't, but they do, runs under the assumption that it should be any certain way, when honestly, there is no way it should or shouldn't be. I mean, jobs are complicated. Hiring is complicated. Getting the right person on your team is complicated. Getting the wrong person on your team can lose you a ton of money. So it makes sense that companies don't want to make mistakes. It would be nice if it was faster, but I think that's even setting yourself up for failure by saying that. One of the lessons I've learned while writing this newsletter is that your mindset is really one of the most important tools during a job search. A positive mindset can propel you forward, while a negative one can hold you back. Staying positive is sometimes challenging, especially when you've applied to X amount of jobs with no responses or follow-ups. But keeping the faith that something will turn up is essential. I agree with that. She added that mantras such as "today is a good day for a good day" are helpful. How do you feel about mantras like that? Does a mantra like "today is a good day for a good day," is that a helpful mantra for you? I know mantras can be quite helpful sometimes. I'm not sure I like that one. I know my time will come, writes Catalina Cataline. When I really had enough, I do crossword puzzles. They give me the boost I need. Routines can be comforting. In some cases, job seeking is accompanied by a drastic upset of our routines. Humans are usually creatures of habit. While not always possible, you may find comfort and peace of mind by sticking to your normal routine as much as possible. I think this is an incredibly important one. As a matter of fact, yesterday I just revisited my entire calendar and updated my routine. So now I actually have my whole day blocked off rather than trying to like sneak in work. I've actually blocked off certain times where I'm coaching. So these are the coaching hours that I let people book. And then, so I've kept certain parts of the day open and certain parts of the day focused on other work. And so that's been one thing that's been helpful for me. Keeping a normal daily routine. Don't go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 11 and half-heartedly apply for some jobs. This is a huge one. Obviously, I do this every morning, and the earlier I go to bed, the better. Last night, I got to bed at a decent hour. The night before, not so much. And you can definitely see it in the live streams. Take time to network. If you find yourself with downtime during your hunt for work, it could be an excuse to make time to network with other people. In addition to making you feel more connected to other people, networking is an invaluable tool while job seeking. As we discussed with Jessica Hernandez, a job search expert and president of Great Resumes Fast, most qualified jobs are obtained through networking. Eric writes that networking is one of the things that helps him stay positive. There's an overwhelming amount of people out there that are willing to help and support. Of course, you have to do your part. I was also told some good advice, too, of never go to lunch alone. It's a book, if you want to read it. So I reach out to my network and plan lunch at least once or twice a week. You never know the opportunities that will raise from these conversations. Explore new interests. You may also want to use downtime to explore new interests that can hone your skills, putting you into a better position to get hired. I've always liked learning languages, but during my job search, I made it my mission to continue working on my second and third language vocabulary and grammar. In some cases, exploring interests can lead to new careers. I was let go from a job in the spring of 2018 when the branch I was working at was shuttered. I felt sort of stagnant working in sales. So during my downtime, reevaluated what I wanted to be doing, which was writing. I took a bunch of online writing courses, got certified in content marketing, and generally read just as many different writings as possible while looking for another job. Ultimately, exploring that interest and taking classes helped Pat land a writing job. So the follow-up. While being laid off and being fired are different, people are hit by those events often find themselves in similar positions. You can check out that in a different article. All right, cool. So I hope some of those tips were helpful. The ones that I really want to dig into, and the ones that I focus on the most in the job search, I really want to focus on three things. The first one is nerding out. The second one is creating things. And the third one is merging your interests. So let's start with the first. The job search can be a very isolating process. And when it feels incredibly isolating, chances are we are not reaching out to people. We're not taking the time to really think about who is in our network, who do we want to be in our network, and how do we connect with them. We hope that people will just join our network randomly, but that's like sitting at home, not downloading a dating app, never going out to any bars or clubs or anything, never asking anyone to go out with you, and hoping someday it'll just pay off. It won't. So what we need to do is we need to nerd out. We need to figure out who we enjoy spending time with professionally. and even personally, but definitely professionally. Who do you enjoy spending time with? Who can you nerd out with? We can take the time to shift our perspective away from this networking to get a job. Everyone I meet needs to give me something. Hey, you right there, do you have a job for me? We got to kill that. We got to get rid of that. We need to switch over to, who do I want to nerd out with? Hey, you look like you are interested in nerdy things that I'm interested in. We both really love music, or we both really love whatever. How do we connect over that? I know someone in New York who recently launched a podcast during the quarantine about how much they love metal music, and they launched it with a friend of theirs who loves metal music. And so that's something that will help you nerd out with other people. Him and the other person found each other. Now they're going to create this thing, and then they're going to go out and they're going to find other people who are also nerdy about this thing, right? So nerd out, find people you want to nerd out with, and then go create stuff with them. That's number 2. Nerd out is number 1. Find your nerds. And number 2, go create stuff with your nerds. Go create things. Go build stuff. Go launch your own projects. That's how we start building our network in an active, collaborative way. And then merge your interests into your job. Like it said in that article, when you're focused on things you enjoy doing, you can infuse them into your work, right? I enjoy making videos. I'm doing this live stream. I'm infusing it into my work, right? Now it's a skill that I can add to a resume because I decided to do it on my own. Didn't wait for permission from a company, just went and did it on my own. And that's the world we live in. Go do it on your own. Find your nerds, create stuff with them, and then merge those interests into your job. If you love building furniture and you're a web developer, reach out to companies like Wayfair and see if you can help them with their website, because you have a merged interest in furniture and code. Wayfair is a company that sells furniture online. See how this starts to work together. See how you can stitch these things into a career. See how it becomes fun rather than a drag. If you really love music or comic books or whatever the thing is that you love, and you're sitting here applying to banks, you're not going to be as enthusiastic in the interview. So obviously there's some nuance in here. Obviously there's some things that we have to figure out sort of personally for you and your situation. But if you can find a way to nerd out, if you can find things to create with people that you connect with, and then you can apply that and merge those interests into your job search, you can have a lot more fun with it. So that's what I think will help us as we go down this road of bringing more joy into our job search and finding a little bit more fun in the routine. So if you have a side project that you've been working on or an interest you've been nerding out in, I hope you'll share it in the comments and let folks know about it. I appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning for another Get Up and Job Search with Martin McGovern and Career Therapy. If you are able, I would love your support on Patreon. It helps keep these live streams going, and it's helping us create really interesting content for the different platforms, like the comics that we're creating and even the music that we're creating. So before we head out today, I want to share a little bit, a song that I've been working on with a producer, using some of the clips from our episodes here in order to kind of bring some fun into this job search, because I do think that it's fun to bring in some of these artistic ideas and share them out. So let me share this real quick. So this is a song called Imposter Syndrome.
Imposter syndrome in the arts is everywhere. am I allowed to be an artist? Why does my story matter? I try to help folks navigate understanding what's unique about their story rather than trying to fill the gaps of what they think the world wants. Because I'm seeing a lot of that, I'm not going to do that thing. I'm going to run away from that thing and I'm going to do something totally different. Being more reactive in their process, actually doing what they want. They're trying to run away from the culture in order to try and separate themselves.
All right. So that was a clip from our podcast with Juliet Barrett, where we took some of her audio and put it over music. So big shouts to Juliet. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you're thinking of creative ways to nerd out and connect with people and build things and put some fun and joy into your job search. I think it'll bring a lot more, I don't know, creativity into your search. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. If you want to support us on Patreon, I would be incredibly grateful for the future of this show. And if you know anyone who's struggling with their job search, I hope you'll share this with them and invite them to join us in a future stream. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck with your job search and reach out with any questions. Cheers.